Hey everyone, welcome to the Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi YouTube channel, where I bring you conversations on a weekly basis. And this week, we're going stateside. We're going to talk to Arda Ocal, who covers the NHL on ESPN, and you see him on SportsCenter. Arda is somebody that I followed for a long time, got to know him over the last couple of years as well. Great supporter of Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi. So let's get right to it. Arda, how's it going?
Doing great, man. This is a long time coming. Great to see you over Zoom. Even better to see you in person, though. You know, we hang out a lot without a microphone in front of us whenever we're in the same city for an event, all-star, whatever it may be. But we might as well hang out with microphones in front of us this time around, right?
Yeah, no, it's awesome to chat with you. I've gotten to know you a little bit over the All-Star games and other events, but you've been a huge supporter of mine personally, but Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi. And thank you very much for that. Thanks for coming on. And we're going to get into your story because I love your path to covering sports in the NHL. But I want to start with the hockey season. You know, just overall excitement level on a 1 to 10. Where are you at? How have you liked to start thus far?
I'm at a 9, if not a 10, honestly. I'm very excited about this season. There's a lot of juicy storylines to chomp into as people that cover the sport. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to focus on. And I know that the focus on Connor Bedard specifically has been talked about a lot, not just talking about him, but talking about the amount of coverage that he is receiving, whether that is his coming from his teammates or coming from the hockey bubble at large. My stance is I cannot get enough. I think it is very good for the sport. I know that that level of shine might impression certain athletes, whatever the case may be. He seems to be handling it well. But really, at the end of the day, this is the show, right? This is the NHL, Randip. So if there is an interesting storyline, if there is a generational talent that has that level of potential, that was ripping it up in juniors to the level of a Sidney Crosby and a Connor McDavid, of course we're gonna give it its due attention. That's the respect that he commands coming into the league. And quite frankly, Connor Bedard in America, and I'll speak to the American landscape because obviously football is king here, not like in Canada where hockey is king. Connor Bedard has permeated beyond the hockey bubble in the United States. Different talk shows, etc., are talking with or about Connor Bedard. So to me, that is nothing but a win for the sport of hockey.
So you have a very unique perspective, right? You cover the NHL in the United States on ESPN, but also Sports Center. Like you are monitoring everything that's going on across the sports world. Taylor Hall comes out and says, this is too much. He's got to do way too much from a marketing perspective. He's carrying too much of load talking about Connor Bedard. In a landscape where the NHL is competing with not only like the big four, but we're talking about F1 is now a huge thing in North America. We talk about MLS with Lionel Messi. Got to change the game. A lot more people are paying attention. There's a celebrity factor. It's kind of required. This is kind of the new norm, shouldn't it be in the NHL?
So a couple things I'd love to say about that. Taylor Hall is among the group of veterans that will help guide and mentor Connor Bedard, and he's got a great group there. Corey Perry, Taylor Hall, Nick Foligno, in my opinion, is one of the best leaders in the NHL in our time. He is. You see him front and center for all the important moments, anything that needs to be said. He's a locker room guy. People love him, and for very, very good reason. So I like what's happening there in terms of mentorship for Connor Bedard. Here's the thing. Even before Connor Bedard uttered a word, when he got drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks, or when the Chicago Blackhawks won the draft lottery, how many more season tickets did they sell? It was in the millions of dollars in that 24-hour span. He didn't even do anything. He just literally won the team won the draft lottery, and all of a sudden the season tickets were flying off of the shelves just because of that. That to me speaks volumes. And to your point about the MLS, Lionel Messi has done it. I mean, the Messi mania is a real thing. Absolutely. But the difference is Messi is at the tail end of his prime, whereas Connor Bedard hadn't played a game in the NHL yet. And so to me, there's like, it's comparable, but at the same time, we have a whole career of Connor Bedard to look forward to, as opposed to one thing MLS needs to worry about is, are they going to get those players even before they approach their primes? Are they going to be able to attract the Connor Bedard types in soccer to come play in MLS? Whereas in the NHL, the hype is real and the hype is warranted for a guy like Bedard.
Yeah, the MLS has to worry about the next one, whereas the NHL has their next one, so you can kind of look at that long runway. I want to get your thoughts on one team here on the West Coast that has been creating some news. Outscored 12-4 by the Vancouver Canucks in the first two games. The Edmonton Oilers, everybody, I feel like on the Sportsnet panel, at least 50% picked them to win the Cup, which 2 games in, I get this. We're not pressing the panic button, but should Oilers fans, who are kind of pressing the panic button, should they feel it a certain way about their team right now based on the way that the team has started the season?
Yeah, I think we should sell the team, Randip. I think it's appropriate. We've seen enough this season. I'm sorry. You know what? Trade McDavid. Future considerations is appropriate. Actually, make it a McDavid-Draisaitl combination. Maybe the new goaltender. Backup goaltender. Maybe the new Atlanta NHL team might be interested. So that might be a good option. Yeah, way too early. But I will say this. A lot of the people at ESPN, myself included, we thought an Oilers-Leafs final would happen. And then you can, to pick them from there. But here's the thing. If there were 2 teams that have the most pressure on them for different circumstances and different reasons, those 2 teams would be the ones that have the biggest microscope. The heat surrounding them is palpable. And quite frankly, like in listening to interviews with Connor McDavid leading up to the season, he seems dialed in, man. He seems focused. He seems like, 2 games aside, he seems like this is a very important year for that team, and it absolutely is. And in both cases, in both teams' cases, I'm looking at goaltending, right? Is Ilya Samsonov the guy for Toronto? Jack Campbell seemed to have a great offseason, hasn't started in the best fashion so far. Whatever, it's two games, whatever the case may be. But like, that's the position to me that you're looking at and saying, what will happen in the next few weeks as we approach the trade deadline? Will things shore up and they will become, superstars between the pipes? That remains to be seen. But in terms of pressure, man, can you imagine being in those locker rooms right now?
Yeah, and that's what it speaks to, right? The quote from last May, I believe it was Connor McDavid saying it's cup or bust at this point. And it's one of those things where you play close to a decade now. It's becoming that long for Connor McDavid in the NHL and Leon Draisaitl for that matter, where the championship expectation. I'm a huge Miami Dolphins fan. I love what's going on with the Finns right now, but I also remember the history of you can be the greatest player ever, but if you don't win a championship like Dan Marino didn't, it kind of hangs with you, right? Which is sad,
Absolutely.
but it's the reality. So, that discussion becomes a little bit louder the longer this goes, but I know Oilers fans won't want to hear that after a couple of games this year. Art, I'm really happy to have you on the show in Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi. A couple of things. You are, a unique individual, because your journey has been so unconventional would be a right way to put it. You've done a lot of things in this business, covered a lot of sports. You started off in the Rogers family way back when, working in Brampton, Mississauga, a lot of Punjabis in that neighborhood. But you're also, a proud Muslim, the only television host of Muslim background in the NHL. And you've used your platform to highlight the community. I know you had a piece on Ramadan in the last few years as well, just kind of highlighting the importance, educating folks. How important is that to you, just to represent your community, to be somebody that the community can look up to, maybe kids in the community, but also inform and raise awareness?
Yeah, I find it very important to be an inspiration for the next generation. That's my single biggest driver when I speak publicly about that. Growing up, I'm sure you felt the exact same way, Randip. We didn't necessarily have many people to look up to from our particular backgrounds, particularly in hockey or sports. For me, it was Muhammad Ali, and that was basically it, right? And so to now go from that to now my umlaut, the 2 dots on the O in my last name, appear on a SportsCenter graphic or appear on an NHL game. That means a lot to me. And I just hope that there is the next generation of kids that are growing up loving hockey or loving sports, and they see a name like that that's similar to theirs and has a similar background and says, wow, there's someone out there doing this. I can do that too. And that motivates me a lot because, like I said, we didn't have it growing up ourselves. And now we can be that inspiration for the next generation and hopefully just be a part of their dream building and thinking of what is possible for them. So that's very, very important to me. And yeah, I take that very seriously. And I just want to be a force of positivity, quite frankly. And that's very important.
Yeah, you most certainly are a inspiration, I think, with a lot of folks where, especially to your point, if you can see it, you can be it, right? That's such a huge part of the conversation where you see players on the ice, no doubt about that. Like in our community, Jajad Kata, Nazem Kadri is obviously somebody that is so prominent. Taking the Stanley Cup to the London Mosque was such a surreal moment, I imagine, for you, but just everybody, really, just to see that this is possible. Going back to that day a couple of years ago, what did that mean to you when Nazem took the cup to the mosque in London?
I never thought I'd see the day, honestly. First of all, for Nazem to be the first Muslim NHL player to win the Stanley Cup was monumental in itself. He made history there, and he's very proud of it. He's spoken about it. It's very important to him. He's done a lot of work with hockey diversity, so it's clearly a topic that's important to him as well. But just to see the image, right? Like we know every player gets a day with the Stanley Cup, and usually sometimes they have a parade in their hometown, or they have a party with their friends and family, or they take it to some unique place. They eat something out of it, right? Like it's always something fun. Like Cale Makar drank Slurpees out of the Stanley Cup, and the Niedermeyers took it on top of a mountain, like stuff like that.
Sure.
You can do whatever you want with it. And Nazem Kadri decides this is important enough for me to bring this to a mosque and be the first athlete ever, the first time that the Stanley Cup had ever stepped foot in a mosque, 100+ years. And this is the first time in 2023. Long time coming, but also like that was important enough for him to do. And I know that the Arab community, the Muslim community hold that in very high esteem, and that matters to them a lot because without him that would not have happened. And so that is that is one of my all-time favorite sports moments, definitely off of the ice, but that will stick with me forever just because of the impact and how important it was for him to execute that.
Yeah, that was an important moment. And I remember watching on our show, Amrit Gill from our Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi, was in London on the ground. They were covering it. Just a really cool moment to see that happen. And you want to see more of that. You want to see more people from, being in the game and winning things and taking it to their community. I'd love to see the day where, the Stanley Cup is taken to Brampton and Surrey and other places. But, give it time and it'll happen. But I think we're on the right track.
Right.
Your track is something that I'm really curious about because WWE fans will know you as Kyle Edwards, of course, going back and your time there. But you've done stuff at the Weather Network. You've done stuff, Rogers TV. I mentioned like you did a lot of stuff. I mean, you can continue to do that today in terms of just getting like a different type of experience where it doesn't seem like it was just hockey the whole way through. You're kind of navigating through the industry. For instance, we met at an NHL 94 tournament in Richmond, British Columbia for the very first time.
How did you do in that tournament, by the
I
way?
was terrible, but I beat my colleagues from Sportsnet. That's all that matters, right? Everybody else, they're elite, man.
I know
yeah.
like it's like a bunch of 30 somethings that get together. They all married with kids, whatever, but they all get together. It's like a vacation to them. But like it's like the most elite NHL 94 gameplay you'll ever see. It's like you think you're good and then you show up and you lose 10-0.
Oh, it was brutal. It was brutal. And I got absolutely worked by it. Like the guy had the Anaheim Ducks. We were the worst team in that game. And I had like Brett Hall or like Jeremy Roenick and the Blackhawks, and it was just I got completely annihilated. But that's the first time we met. But it speaks to kind of your range of interest and your journey. Like when you look back at and getting to this part of covering, the NHL and on ESPN hosting SportsCenter, how was that important to you? Getting like a wide range of experience and kind of doing stuff that interest you, or like what was your I guess strategy as you kind of worked your way to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought this would be a job, right? Like, I mean, people watching this could certainly relate. I'm the product of immigrant parents. My parents immigrated from Turkey, and I was born and raised in Canada. But their impression or their thoughts on the North American dream were a lot different than my thoughts and impression. They allowed me the opportunity to dream bigger and not just be let's just escape or leave a country that is a developing country and come to North America and have a good life and raise a family, right? Like that's the way my parents were thinking. My father grew up very poor, and he, went through education and did all the right things, and then came to Canada. Decided he wanted to immigrate here because he wanted a better life, right? And so that allowed me the opportunity to think of what can I do with my life, And so I didn't think broadcasting would even be a job. I didn't have any friends or family in the industry, Randip. I started from scratch. I didn't know anything, and I didn't even go to school for it. I have a degree in math from the University of Waterloo, which I'm very proud of, by the way. Don't get me wrong. Like the fact that of all things, I have a degree. It's crazy. I don't even know how I did that. I look back on it,
For
I'm like, how did
you,
I do this? How did I do this?
should be the first thing on
It's
your
insane.
resume.
Yeah, I should be better at analytics, right? Like I should be I
There's
should be
still
way
time.
better at.
There's still
Yeah,
time.
someone explain Corsi to me. But anyway, so I had a desk job, and like nights and weekends, instead of going out with my friends and whatever, I would go to the local Rogers TV station, like you said, and just learn everything. Like, what does the graphics designer do? What does the floor director do? What do the camera people do? And I just enjoyed that. And then eventually, like in my mid-20s, I was like, I think I just need to give this a shot. Like I had saved enough to like scrape by for a couple years. I said, okay, I'm going to give myself 3 years, see where I go. And then that's sort of like each year, you know how it is in this industry, like you build and build and, peaks and valleys. And by the end of every year, I was like incrementally better, not like exponentially, but like enough that it motivated me continuously, et cetera. So, like one thing led to another. I got an opportunity at the Score Television Network back when it was a TV station, and now people know it as an app, but back then there was a serious radio station and a TV station, and that's where I really got to hone my craft and be around a lot of creative people and really get my breaks in the industry, so to speak. And then eventually that led me to being in Vancouver with the Weather Network, which, by the way, I will say this: if I did not get the job at WWE, I'd probably be your colleague in Vancouver. Like I'd probably still be there. I'd probably I loved it, dude. I was living in Yale Town. I was
Nice.
loving life. It was
Nice.
the best. I loved Vancouver. I was like in the best shape of my life because I was going on hikes every day, and I was like it was such a like a healthy lifestyle that I like my group of friends were all like super healthy and everything, and I was just like, man, this is good for my well-being. Being in Vancouver was good for my well-being.
All right.
Friends and kits, go head on over, like it was awesome. But then I got the job at WWE, so then I moved across the continent again. But yeah, dude, like honestly, like just the wide range of things. Hockey was always my dream, but early on in my career, I got some advice to basically find a less beaten path, especially in Canada, because the advice I got was, look, even if one person leaves, if Ron McLean were to leave that job tomorrow, there's going to be 50 or 60 people behind him vying for that job. And I understood that. I got that. Not necessarily the advice that I would give to people, but I understand why the advice was given to me, and I followed it. So I went the combat sports route, and luckily that worked out for me. And in a circuitous way, I'm back into hockey, which is where I want to be all along. So I guess it worked out for me in a
No,
way.
that's awesome, man. And I see a lot of similarities with my journey, right? Child of immigrants, also got my degree in political science and history. So at least you have math. I had an
I love
arts
that we're putting
degree.
our degrees to good use. I love
Exactly,
it.
right? And just same thing, just kind of got involved in the industry and kind of worked my way from there. So like a lot of similarities, and that's why I appreciate your journey, because it is unconventional. One of those parts, and I know a lot of the viewers are gonna love this, because Punjabis love wrestling. You know that better than anybody. You were in the WWE, but you also did the independent promotion route for a while too. The experience of working for the big brand. I grew up watching like the old tapes. My dad would record them from the 80s, whether it was WrestleManias or Saturday night main events. What was that like for you? Because I imagine as a wrestling guy working for the brand, probably to a certain degree, you feel like you made it.
Yeah, it was definitely a dream come true. I grew up loving WWE, like many kids our age, many people growing up, especially in Canada. In Canada, we're just so proud of Canadian wrestlers that make it, right? Like the Bret Harts of the world, and then of course later Edge and Christian and that era of wrestler. Anytime a Canadian makes a Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens today, that kind of thing, we feel so proud because in many ways, Canada, by some people at least, would be seen as like the younger sibling to the North, like a tenth of the population, whatever. And whenever someone makes it in the United States, it's an important thing. And I feel that pride too. But working for WWE was great. I'm proud of the fact that I made it there. I'm proud that we were able to do some really, really good content. And actually, growing up, you were mentioning like remember the old VHS tape releases that they would have. That was my big goal in reality was I wanted to host a DVD release or like a video release. And there was one that was Canada exclusive called Our Nation's Pride. And it was just all Canada wrestling matchups. And I got to host that, which was like, all right, I'm good. This is really, really good for me. So, but to the independents, can I tell you a really funny story?
Absolutely.
If you don't
That's
mind.
what we want here.
You can feel free to keep it in or cut it if you want. But one of the best pranks that was pulled on me actually happened at Tiger Fest. Maybe some people watching this knows what Tiger Fest is. So Tiger Jeet Singh and his son, Tiger Ali Singh from WWE, but Tiger Jeet Singh Jr. First of all, I just love how Tiger Jeet Singh is one of the most feared villains in pro wrestling history, period. Okay, like I want to place importance upon this. He is one of the most successful wrestlers, but like one of the most, like in Japan especially, like people feared this guy on the streets and they'd like part the seas. Like it was very, like that's the level that he had, that level of feared respect. He also, by the way, has a school named after him in Milton, Tiger Jeet Singh Public School, like for the amount of philanthropic efforts that he does. Like he's a very, very charitable man. And like, I just love the juxtaposition of that, right?
Why
like
not both, right? Why not both?
The vilified heel and the school named that. I was at that opening. It was awesome. So anyway, every year back in the day, they would do a show called Tiger Fest in Brampton as part of Canada Day celebrations. And to know the independent wrestling scene, like, you know, like you get crowds of like 150 if it's a low crowd. You can get up to like 750, 1,000 if you're lucky, if it's like a big show with big former WWE names or whatever. This show, I'm not even exaggerating, with thousands of people, predominant Punjabi audience here to see the Tigers, Tiger Jeet in the ring, Tiger Jr. perform. Like this is a big deal in Brampton. So I'm the ring announcer for this event. And I'm like, okay, I look out in the crowd and, predominant Punjabi audience. I'm like, okay, I want to say something in Punjabi to ingratiate myself with the crowd and really start this well, right? So I go to the Tigers and I'm like, can you just teach me something like, hey, like, let's go, or, something really good to rile up the crowd. So they look at each other, they think about it for a second. And then Tiger Jr. whispers something in my ear. He's like, say this, you're going to be fine. Like, this is going to the crowd is going to love it. They're going to love that you're trying to speak Punjabi and they're going to say, this is awesome. So he whispers it in my ear. Now I'm a little nervous. I'm like, okay, I got to make sure I say it correctly. I want to do it a proper respect and make sure that I got this right. So I practice it. I'm like pacing backstage and just like practicing it. Finally, the show starts. I walk to the ring. I get in the ring. I'm like, hello, everyone. How are you doing? And everyone is, cheering, welcome to the show. Who is this guy kind of thing. And I'm like, all right, we're going to set the tone here in Tiger Fest and we're going to start things off right. So what I have to say to you, wonderful people in Brampton, May Bunder who? And the crowd is completely silent. And it felt like an eternity. And I'm like looking around, waiting for the reaction as if they're going to like cheer, jumping out of their seats, and nothing, crickets. And I'm like, is the mic on? Did I say something wrong? So like a complete fool, I say it again in the microphone, May Bonder, who? And then finally the crowd looks at me and they just start laughing, like audible laughter, like, ah, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like very confused at this point. Now I'm like, what's going on? Did I say this wrong? So I go backstage and I'm like walking up the aisle. I'm like, people are pointing and laughing. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Lo and behold, I get past the curtain and there are both Tigers looking at me. And Tiger goes, you did a great job, monkey man.
Wow. All right. So you told me that story in Florida, and I couldn't, like, I'm like, we have to share this with the audience. That's amazing. So
one of the best whips that was ever pulled on me, but they're the best. The Tigers are awesome.
That's legendary. That's like you're looking for authentic help, and he just sets you up in front of thousands of people. And for a Punjabi audience, I don't have to explain what Arda was saying. For a non-Punjabi audience, basically saying I'm a monkey in front of thousands of people. So there you go, man. That's awesome. Your pronunciation of Matt Banda, by the way, is very good. I gotta say.
Thank you. I was practicing it for a good long while.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta teach you a little bit more when you come out or when we meet up again. Arda, this is the first time you're gonna be in our show. I'd love to have you. You made time for us, but next time around we're gonna talk some hockey. I want to actually do some rapid fire with you next time as well. But this was a great introduction to introduce you to our audience. I know a lot of them already know who you are, but there's other people that don't. Your story, who you are. Awesome to chat again, brother, and always great to have a conversation with you.
Randip, you are a credit to hockey, my friend. Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi. I love that it exists. I love that it continues to exist. It plays a very important role in the hockey community, and you lead the charge there. So good vibes, my friend. You're awesome.
Thank you very much. And you can catch them on ESPN, NHL on ESPN. You can catch them on SportsCenter. Thank you very much, Arda. Appreciate your time, and we'll chat again soon. Thanks.